Let's talk drop shot first, because that is what we are very much more well-versed in. I have been doing a ton of fishing with that for many, many years. It's the first true finesse technique I've ever learned. And between the two of us, we have done exceptionally well with this bait. Probably for the last, well, for me, 12 years. For you, 8 years? Something like that? Yeah. Something like that. There's a whole different number of ways that you can fish a drop shot. But the plus side, you can just fish it one very simple way and be extremely effective with it. Most importantly, you do not need electronics to be able to effectively use a drop shot. Does it make it better? Abso-friggin-lutely. Is it necessary? No. Especially during certain conditions, your electronics won't help you for crap, because there are plenty of days, and we primarily use a drop shot for smallmouth fishing, that they will be incredibly boat shy. They don't want to be anywhere near it. You could be in 50 feet of water fishing like this beautiful hump, and the fish just happen to be that deep, and a drop shot makes sense. Rare when you're talking that deep, but it has happened. Realistically, like 35 to 40 feet is about the deepest I've had numerous days of consistently getting them off the bottom with a drop shot. And there's been days where boats drifting, little windy, see a boomerang show up on the graph, drop down, bait gets within 5 feet of the fish, and they are gone. Or you hit spot lock, and they are immediately gone. So that's where a drop shot is nice, because you can still bomb that and fish it really effectively without having to feel like you have to be over the top of the fish. Oliver, I do remember when it was called down shot from Japan as well, because when I first started using it, maybe not necessarily from Japan, but I remember that term, because when I started asking a lot of questions, I remember older guys being like, "You mean the down shot?" It's kind of weird, but
down shot? That's what you used to call it?
Yeah, he said, I remember when it was termed down shot, straight from Japan.
I don't know that.
Weights and baits, where the hell is Dennis? So let's start with the drop shot. If you could please pull up said bait, and I will fix. For those who have never fished a drop shot, this is about as simple as it gets. It is literally a weight with a short tag length to hook with bait on hook.
Oh, I'm stuck.
It gets 1,000% more difficult if you choose to make it after that. Ooh, a fish tank. Busted out last week, too. We finally got this figured out.
This fish has a name.
And yes, we are old guys now. It's literally as simple as this. If you wanted to get into drop shot fishing, I will tell you the most simple thing you could possibly want to use for this. 3/8 ounce weight, teardrop style, and I like the... Damn, get a mat. No, we're not getting a mat. 3/8 ounce teardrop style weight. Okay, it's tungsten. Gee. And we'll say 8-pound straight fluorocarbon line. I do think you should do better than that, but I'm going for the most simple approach. And then a bunch of Gamakatsu 1/0. I think they're just called drop shot / split shot hooks. That is it. That will work for you in literally just about any... Shake the bait, not the weight, Andrew. Yeah.
Whatever.
That's a drop shot. There's nothing else to be said about it. What we really want to focus on is this is the point where you all come in, you start asking as many questions as you want, but we're going to talk about all the different ways that we rig it, our favorite baits, and then different conditions that will make us vary how it is that we're presenting this bait, depending upon time of the year, depth, what we're seeing on the graph for what fish are doing, the whole 9 yards. So...
Oh, it was Oliver that said that. The camera's in the way. I can't see whatever.
Jamie, spot on. Less is more with a drop shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I catch more of my fish dead sticking it than I do than shaking around like crazy.
Spot on. And actually, that's a great point to start with. Let's talk about what you actually do with a drop shot. Because again, this is anybody that's ever even looked at a drop shot should know what it looks like rigged up. There's a whole myriad number of baits you can use, the whole 9 yards. But let's... Oliver distracted me. I want to get back to that. Let's talk about what it is you do with a drop shot, because there is a couple of different ways you can do it. Oliver, I used to drop shot an 8-inch floating Huddleston. I feel like he's joking, having hung out with you and know what your humor is.
He might be not kidding. I don't know.
Oh, dude, I didn't even know you could see my mug there, Sir Altitude. I happen to work with both of those people. Paul was my direct coworker, and Anita I have worked with quite a bit actually recently on some efforts with our production schedule. Wow, small damn world, buddy. That's too funny. Cheers.
Cheers this. Okay.
Okay, so drop shot. What do you do with it? What do you like to do with it most when you were fishing a drop shot? But then this is twofold. But both one, what do you do most often for how you are imparting or not imparting action on a drop shot? And two, what is your optimal tag length between weight and hook? I want you to start this.
In colder weather, I like a tag length anywhere from like probably 4 to 6 inches or even shorter, depending on how thick the vegetation is or anything on the bottom that
that little thin spongy layer that's always down there. Yep.
So it's either sitting right on top of it or just above it. Boop. And in hotter weather, you can get away. We've used 2 foot tag lengths before.
Yep.
At least I have.
Not as often as you, and not as often as my buddy Travis, who kind of taught me the ropes on the drop shot a very long time ago. But anyway, continue.
So warmer weather, usually a longer tag length. Typically, I go anywhere from 8 to 10 inches in midsummer. But when colder weather, definitely I usually go 4 to 6 inches. I like fishing drop shot when we're usually fishing something a lot deeper, like a deep rock pile or like deep grass. But I also like fishing it on just big, deep, sandy flats where you can just drag it and then pause and then drag it. I'm kind of like fishing a jig, but you need to still keep that tension on there so you're not, well, I don't know if you can see.
I'll bring it back.
Boop. Because when you're long bombing it and dragging it back, you may want to use a little bit longer tag length because depending on how far you're casting from the boat, that angle will bring that bait way further down than you think it is.
Yep. Yeah, and especially if you're in deeper water, it's not as bad. You're literally drawing an angle between you and bait. And if you're in really shallow water, really long cast, that's a very flat angle. So keep forgetting to swap this. So, your weight might be here and you might have a 10-inch weight, which is only going to 10-inch tag. Your bait's only going to be up just a little bit over your weight. But now if you're down in, say, 50 feet of water, now it's more kind of like an angle like this, even on a really far cast, just because you're so deep. You can't put that very shallow of an angle on it. So that's to kind of elaborate on what it is he's talking about for how you may need to adjust your tag length depending upon depth, and if you're long bombing it and you want to drag it back a little bit, or, obviously keep it on the bottom.
Or you could use a floating plastic that'll keep it up. And you just a little less tension on there, if you could,
Yep, I agree. And then
I have to elaborate much more.
So your preference. I'm seeing the chat questions. We're gonna get to that 1 second. So your preference is longer casts, and you prefer to drag it back while maintaining some tension, so the bait is always tense against the tag length to the weight.
Not super tense.
Not super tense,
I
but
want it
it's
just
up
enough where there's a little bit of loop in my line, but I can still feel it, just barely. Because you don't want that bait. I usually don't have the bait on just tension. Can you show that?
I gotta keep my hand on the mouse.
Straight tension. That bait ain't really doing anything. Just a little bit dropping it. Any little movement in your rod tip and with the current or anything, that bait is gonna wiggle around like that, like crazy. But if you have it dead still, sometimes they want it dead still though, in super cold water.
Mm-hmm.
They want it that
dead stick. So when you're dragging it, you don't like to impart any additional action other than just that light release on the tension.
Depending on the bite. If they're super active and you're dragging it and they're hitting it while you're dragging it, you can drag it and give it little pops just to give it that extra little action. But if they're not hitting it while I'm dragging it, in the motion of dragging it, I'll usually just dead stick it.
I like it. I keep forgetting to switch this. Sorry guys, I'm trying. So I am 90% the same as him. In my absolute preferred ways to fish this. Pretty much, if I'm fishing a drop shot, I want a heavier weight. I'm fishing on the bottom. I'm using that when they're on the bottom. One of the things we're going to cover is it can be effective for catching fish that are more suspended or feeding up. And you can alter your rig to do that, but also still obviously have the benefit of if they're willing to chase it down to the bottom and still catch them that way. But I really prefer to use it when they're like straight up on the bottom. You know they're feeding down or like belly scraping bottom and maybe looking up a little bit. So I will usually use about an 8-inch tag between weight and hook. And my favorite way is to video game them. I wait until I see a boomerang show up on the graph and I would drop on them. But the moment that I know that I'm seeing these fish and they're quote unquote seeing me, they're really boat shy or they're motor shy. They immediately just run off as soon as I hit spot lock or whatever, then I'll go to long bombing casts. And for me, I mixed it up between long pauses, so essentially dead sticking it, and just like that. I'm just almost like, I almost said something really insensitive. Anyway, I just very lightly shake my hand. So what I'm trying to do is, let me bring this back. That. Precisely. I'm trying to just get the bait to roll and quiver and shimmy and like, but still kind of almost keep it as close as I can to exactly where it is. I just want it to look like a fish that's kind of just shaking right in place. And that's my go-to. And I almost always use a 3/8 ounce to start. I use a 1/0 hook. For me, though, for my line, I go 8-pound fluorocarbon for like a 15 to 20 foot long leader and then straight to 10-pound braid because I want that immediate feedback, even if they're just lightly nibbling it. And that also helps me better feel bottom composition. I will always use a tungsten weight when I'm doing this because I can tell the difference between dragging through just pure sand and feeling the ripples in the sand if there happens to be some there to any sort of rock to if it all of a sudden becomes that like soft, like, 1 to 2 inch like spongy vegetation on the bottom. Like I could drag through all three of those and tell you exactly when I hit all three, what all three are, and how long I went through all three based on like roughly how long I dragged it. Because I have tungsten, 2 braid, and also a very high-end rod, which definitely helps. But
if you haven't used tungsten and you only use lead in states that you can use it, try and buy a pack of tungsten weights. You will thank
by the way,
yourself.
You can get from Beast Coast Fishing, and I'm not just saying this because they're my sponsor. They legitimately have some of the cheapest, lowest prices on tungsten weights that you can find around for drop shot weights. There's plenty of others out there, but obviously Beast Coast. There's a reason why we're with them. So there's that. Backing up, now that we get to the questions. Shower and a grower. Where I saw it. I went past it. There it is. Ben Marshall, where would you ideally throw your drop shot?
In the water. Or 400 yards the other way. Remember that? Holy shit.
He had a cast that, like, half-ounce drop shot weight, and he lined up, right? He was going to try and send it he did. That weight broke off at the, like, most perfect apex of the arc of his cast. And I, honest to God, think it went 600 to 700 feet. It hung for a good 5-6 seconds, that we figured?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
We had the video of it somewhere.
Longer,
I got to find it.
We stopped. We just stopped. We were just, like, perfectly dead calm. It was quiet.
Just us. Just literally the only people on the lake.
And we were like, where is it? Where is it? Thwop. We see just this little ripple, like, on the other side of the lake. Oh, man, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was...
But that was towards a rock pile.
Yes, it was.
It landed, like, right on top of it.
Yeah, he did. It was a hell of a thing. So, okay, did you have a serious one? I already forgot what you said. I know you joked, though.
I just butted in. Where do I...
Ideally throw a drop shot.
Ideally throw them? If I could have my choice... A rock pile on like 35, 40 feet.
Yeah.
I love that bite out of rock piles that deep. It's fun.
Mine's a little bit more specific and yet vague. I will throw it literally anywhere that I'm marking fish a little bit deeper. I don't mind catching them shallower with this, but I usually pull it out when they're 15 to 20 feet or deeper. And I'm either marking fish on the bottom or marking a ton of bait on the bottom. And I will fan cast literally anywhere. I will fan cast into absolute nothingness. I will work a giant flat in 50 feet of water, well, maybe 40 feet of water, with nothing but random bait fish around. And as long as those bait are close to the bottom, I'm marking a fish or two along the bottom. I don't care. I will throw it against anything. For me, it's not necessarily structure or cover driven. It's more fish pattern and bait fish pattern behavior driven. If I know they're feeding down, definitely in the spring, not very early spring. The water's still really cold. We're talking, for me, 50 degrees and up for surface temp is where it really starts to shine. I have had some days with colder water temps, but not much colder, where it's worked. But as soon as it gets like 50 and up, and they start kind of coming up the banks to get towards the shallows, especially smallmouth, they're getting closer to spawn, it starts to work. And immediately after that, until the middle of the summer, when they start to suspend, I will throw it through that whole window. And then again, for me, it's just a matter of where am I marking them? 9 times out of 10, I'm waiting for a fish to go by me, and I'm going to just drop on his head. Other than that, again, if I know that they're not going to be eating, I will just fan cast the whole area. If I know there's structure around, I will absolutely throw it around that, and I'll slow down.
You'll absolutely get it stuck in a rock, and the fish will pull it out for him.
Every time. I don't know what it is about me. I get stuck in a rock, and honestly...
I hate it. No, I don't.
It's got to be 1 out of every 3 times. Now, if we're like specifically in smallmouth waters, and we know they're down the rocks, so I'm narrowing the times that are the... conditions that this happens in, but we know they're feeding down, we know they're in the rocks, and I'm fishing a drop shot heavily, and it's just all smallmouth. 1 out of every 3 times I get stuck in a rock on a deep rock pile, a fish will bite it and pull me free.
I've only had it happen like twice, and how many times have I gotten stuck in rocks while fishing for deep smallmouth?
I think it's happened to me like 10 times already this year.
It's happened to me like 5 times in my life.
I don't know what to say. It just happens. So it's kind of a broad answer, but at the same time, it's very specific. Where? Literally everywhere. But why is because I am marking fish that I feel confident are feeding down because I'm marking them. I'm not really seeing much boomerangs coming up, so they're staying down pretty low. And I'm marking tons of bait fish that are also staying pretty low. Like, you can mark a big ball of bait fish, and there's like a big chunk of it that's belly scraping the bottom, but like the whole bait ball comes up like 10 feet. So they're pretty spread out top to bottom. But then I'll wait for that long, thin band. I mean, it's kind of thick, but relative to like a tall bait, I'm waiting for the longer one. So there's a big bait ball, but they're only like 3 feet off the bottom, from bottom 3 feet up. And that gives me much more confidence that like, okay, it's time for a drop shot because they're going to chomp.
Those fish that show like a really like hard return, but it's not like a super tall line. All those bait fish that are closer to the bottom, they're spread out along the bottom, so there's more of an area that you can fish instead of those bait balls that are suspended, and they're literally just balled up.
Yep.
Never mind. Well, I don't remember what I was going to say.
That's okay.
I started saying something and it just disappeared.
From South Jersey, what are the best ways to use the drop shot from the bank?
Jeez. I would look on Navionics or any depth chart and find, and even on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever, and find the closest fishable shore to the steepest drop and just bomb it.
Yep.
Pretty much.
If you have room that you can bomb it at an angle to the, like, not straight out, like 90 degrees from the bank, but if you can cast it
like 30 to 45 degrees.
Yeah.
And just drag it up that whole bank.
You're golden, pony boy. David, Seth Fighter says it like you've got the TTs. Spot on. Keep the questions coming. By the way, we're getting right through them. David, anyone else like drop shot and cabbage? Yes, kind of. I much more prefer using it like super finesse, light line, deep water, open water. Not against using it against cabbage. I have done it, but I have other techniques that I prefer that I'm really successful with that I really haven't used it around cabbage a lot. Although, funny you mention that. That is something that I want to do this year. And then, hey, go figure. This is one of the worst years for like good vegetation. Pretty much everywhere. Dude, it's wild. It's just wild. Wait, I want to go to Hellabass first. I like everything about drop shot except the time to rig it and how it tangles the other rods. I have started getting the habit, like when I'm done fishing for the day, I hook my hook on my bait keeper or my hook keeper on the rod, and then I take and twist the line around a bunch of guides. Like I just grab the butt end of the rod, I grab the line itself, and like hold it away from the rod, and then I just spin the butt end of the rod while holding it, and I just, and it wraps it up around all the guides. Nearly simultaneously.
I put my weight in the bait keeper.
Sometimes we do that, which, by the way,
depending on the rod.
those Fuji weight keepers hook keepers I have, the plastic ones with a little O-ring I put on my rods. There's a guy that Sean Graves, and he's to remind me who it was. He has a company. He makes those exact things, but specifically to hold the drop shot weight itself. Really? Yes, I need them. I need them badly.
That's pretty cool. They probably go down the other way.
Yep. It's fancy. It's just like you nestle the weight right into that clip
exactly
itself.
What I do, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I can actually hide this for a second. So that helps immensely. The only thing that sucks is if I'm out there specifically drop shot fishing, I want that free. I will leave my hook and weight hanging over the side of the boat. But what I'll do is I will try and rig everything. So instead of having like 4 and 4 rods on each side, I will put like 6 and just 2 on this side. And I'll take my drop shot rod and turn it around so the bait and weight is hanging off the front of the boat, like right next to the trolling motor shaft. So if I see a fish, I literally just put the other rod down on my left and drop down with my right, and I can flip the bail open in one hand and just, I'm right there. Jimby, fish hugging the bottom 20 to 30 feet, very close to the bottom. Will they bite or are they just hanging out? This summer I find more hanging out than biting.
Could be time of day.
Time of day, time of the year. Just because they're on the bottom doesn't mean that they want to feed down. The big question I ask then is, where's the bait related to those fish? Are they also down the bottom or are they swimming up over their heads? One thing I've said for years when we go smallmouth fishing. Remember what the first thing, I haven't said it much the last few years, but early on in our smallmouth learning.
It's kind of given now. We just know.
Right. But what was the first? We have to establish if they're feeding
up or down.
Bingo. I said that for years, and I still believe it. But like Andrew just said, like we've learned enough now that I don't always have to ask myself that question. I have it down pretty well that for the most part I know which way they want to feed.
That's just part of the process of us going out and either fishing a new body water or just going out fishing every day. It's what are they biting? What colors are they biting? Are they chasing stuff down? Are they feeding down? Are they feeding up? Like what the hell is going on? So that's why we go out with so many different techniques and we figure out what the heck they want to eat.
Yep. So there you go. Bait fish over their head from Jim again. This is where, not because of so many things I've learned, I won't even throw a drop shot.
Okashira.
Bingo. Okashira, spy bait, swim bait on an underspin, or damiki rig. Or what I'm going to go to if the bait fish are over their head, but they're down below and they're coming up and smoking it from over their head. All of those are phenomenal for that. If you don't have any of those and you want to throw a drop shot or a Ned rig, which is what we're going to talk about, this also works. You can work a Ned rig with the right kind of trailer as a damiki. All you need is a hook that the eyelet is 90 degrees to the hook shank. Boom, damiki. I don't care what head style it is. Make it work. And you can do it with like a Z-Man TRD. They'll still eat it. I've done that plenty of times. But I digress. We're not talking about Ned rig yet. So for drop shot, this is where you start to kind of play around with things and you can get a little bit more complex than what I said. You know, like 8 to 10 inch tag length, 3/8 ounce weight, 3.5 inch bait, boom, done. If you really want to throw a drop shot and they're still down, but not necessarily feeding down because the bait fish are over their head, much longer tag length, much lighter weight, longer casts. That's the only other way I've been able to get them to bite if I'm strictly using a drop shot to succeed in that. The really lightweight, the long casts, and that exceptionally long tag length, like now you're talking 2, 3, even 4 feet. Sometimes I've heard plenty of friends doing this and they've found success. That really, really lightweight and all that drag from the extra tag, your bait being up, is going to make it fall very, very slow. And that will give them time to come up, see it, and eat it. But then having that mega long tag length as well almost acts like you're using something suspended, whether it be damiki rig or if you were potentially swimming something over their head. And it gives them more time to really come up and look at it. And especially if you fall on like slack line, downside you might miss some bites, but that weight's going to hit, the bait is going to catch up to the tension on that, or like there's going to be tension, weight slams, and then bait's going to slowly drift down, and you've got 4 feet of line for that to happen. So there's a really wide window for them to eat it. That's how I think about it.
What? Ben.
Ben. Okay, I do... Wait. Why do dinks always F up and twist your rig? Dude, it infuriates me. I will...
It's because they're so just...
There's a text I have to
jerks.
get to as well. Dude, I will honestly net an 8-inch smallmouth just as often as I will a 4-pounder because it calms them down and it stops the mayhem that they create on my line. It's infuriating.
Well, it does either one or two things. It's either it calms them down or they just get more pissed off. You got to cut your line and retie it all up.
So, we had one from my buddy Chad. How long until you decide to change tag length and or color, size, or bait profile?
I mean,
I can think about that.
depending on what time of year it is, I'll usually stick with those tag lengths that I said earlier. But if I'm not bit within like a half hour, I'll change my color, or I'll downsize, or I'll upsize. And
Yeah,
just
when we're
keep
like
trying and trying and trying until something starts working.
Yeah, when we're long bombing casting, we know they're not going to bite below us.
Right.
If on color change, I will literally change through 6 or 7, even 8 baits some days in consecutive drops. Like if I drop down on a fish and all right, so one of my favorite lakes is in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, smallmouth only lake. Phenomenal drop shot fishing out there. And we'll be out there plenty of days. And like first spot we'll pull up to, we always know that they're there. I mean, almost without fail. Yep, there's a fish clearly on the bottom. There's like an inch of space between him and bottom. Drop down the drop shot. If he doesn't completely just piss off right away and he comes up and looks at it, I can tell if he comes up and like, if he really comes up to get it, it falls it right back down, but then goes away. That tells me I'm really, really close in the color or profile. And that makes me feel good. If he stays on the bottom, or if he's like, say, 2 feet off the bottom and he follows it down, but doesn't, like, you wait for the 2 lines to merge, become one. If that happens, same deal. I feel like I'm close on color. If they react to the bait, but never get close enough that those 2 lines, my bait and the fish, merge, wrong color. Or it's wrong tag, or it's too heavy of a weight. 99 times out of 100 for me for smallmouth, it's color. I've said that in literally dozens of videos when I'm going after smallmouth. Color is the most key aspect of what you're doing for them. So for drop shot, like I will literally take out a tub of drop shot baits, and I always start with a magic flick because it's just seriously one of the best drop shot baits I've ever used. And he's got all the colors I like. And I've got my top 5 colors. I will pull out a bag of each one of those colors and have it ready, if not on the deck, then on top, like as soon as I open my compartment, they're all lined out right there. And I'll drop that first bait down. If I'm lucky, obviously they eat it. If not, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do. If that line closes and they're close, I'm going to go with something kind of along the same lines. If they don't even come remotely close, I'm going to a widely different color. And I'll drop that down. And I'll wait and see what that fish does. Lines close, okay, we're close, but he didn't eat it. So I'll drop one more time and change up what I'm doing with the bait a little bit. If he still doesn't bite, rip it up, tie another bait. You can verify. How many times have I just literally just like dropped, change bait, drop, change bait, drop, change bait?
Yeah, well, I walk up on the front deck, I'm like, what happened here? This was clean 5 minutes ago.
I'm ruthless, but I also feel like that's because I'm very well dialed in when I'm doing that. Mm-hmm. I know where they're going to be, how they're going to want to eat it. It's just always trying to nail down that color that more often than not is the challenge when I'm out there. And then to Andrew's point, like messing with tag length, last thing I'll do. I will mess with weights. If I can, I'll always try and go downsize, but vast majority of the time, I can get away with 3/8 ounce and it's fine. I can cast it still pretty far. It comes down pretty fast without being insanely fast, like a 1/2 ounce weight. Holds really well in even moderate wind. It just works for me. After changing color, depending on the time of the year, as you get closer to summer, if color change doesn't work, I will upsize. And that is one of the things I really wanted to show a big difference. So you have Senor Magic Flick. That's a 3.65 inch long drop shot bait, finesse bait. And then I will always, always, always have a bag of 5-inch finesse worms to go with it. Because there are some days where they will literally not touch a 3.5-inch bait. But the moment you drop a 5-inch bait, and sometimes it doesn't even matter what color, they inhale it right off the bat. It's wild. So how often do I change colors? Often. Very, very often, and sometimes immediately. Next up after that, I will change size of the bait depending upon the location. From there, I'm going to go from dropping straight down on them to long bombing casts, last but not, or fourth, I'll change the weight that I'm using. Then last but not least, I will finally mess around with tag length, but that's usually the very last thing I would ever think about doing. Ooh, finally, here we go. Ben Marshall, what action do you prefer on your drop shot rod? What the hell is my drop shot? I have to go look.
I don't even know either. I think mine is a
7.6 medium light.
7. No, it's not 7.6. No, is it?
That drop shot, your shaky head one?
Yeah, 7.6 medium.
It's a medium moderate fast.
No, it's a medium fast.
Medium fast. Yeah.
That's my Okashira rod. Is the medium moderate. I don't know what his is. What is yours, Dad? Whatever. I can't see the comments.
I remembered. We left out.
You?
What?
I yelled Dad.
Oh. So I for the life of me, I couldn't remember. I have 2 drop shot rods. One is a custom built from Wicked Custom Rods. It's a 7.2 medium fast. And then I have another one that is kind of like an ultra finesse setup that I have from Lose. I use it for a whole bunch of different things. That's a 7.4 medium extra fast. Either one of those works for me. I don't want a ton of backbone. I want the whole thing to be supple, but quick on the hook set. So hence the fast or extra fast to action in the tip. And I want to lean into it the whole way so that it bends almost from reel seat all the way to the rod tip. But I can use the whole length of that whole long rod to balance the load of the fish across it. Because smallmouth are both powerful and fast. They surge. It's like fighting a tractor with a quad turbo, for lack of a better way to put it. Because all of a sudden they'll just turn and run.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched our last video on the Okashira rod,
oh yeah,
the 5 1/4 pound smallie, that was literally just taking up all the action of that rod, and it wasn't really difficult to fight that fish at all. But that's also due to the fact that that rod was completely loaded up and it was doing its job, and it helped me out a lot. Thank God.
I'm trying to figure out Kyle's comment. Egg beaters.
Egg beaters.
Power fishing. Okay. I like catching fish.
I like fishing for
I got nothing against any
fish.
technique.
Doesn't even matter what species.
If I got to beat people with a drop shot, we have done it. If I got to beat people with a jig, I have done it. If I got to beat people with a big swim bait, I have done it. I don't give a shit. I like catching fish. I like being the best person on the water every time I go out. I don't give a shit what it takes.
I don't even really care if I am the best fisherman. I just want to catch the biggest fish.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're good at that. Hell Bass, I don't know if you're still here, but have a good night, friend. Thanks for stopping in as always. Jason.
Oh, he left. See you later.
Damn, a 1/8 weight seems small as hell. So I have a bunch of 1/4 ounce, 3/16 and 1/8 ounce drop shot weights, and I rarely go that light because I haven't fished with enough people doing the same thing that are as competent or more competent than me with a drop shot that's made a difference to have that lighter weight. So I stopped using it because it just does nothing but limit me in the end. Could I still be missing some bites? Yeah, absolutely. It's just like anything else.
If it was like consistently hitting it on the fall, I would sit there and grind out an eighth ounce weight, but 98% of the time I'm fishing a drop shot, I'm fishing it strictly on the bottom to get those bottom dwelling fish.
Yep. David, a drop shot, super flukes, 1/2 ounce weight, 12-pound line, bait cast rods, 7-inch medium. Isn't that technically considered power shotting when you use them like a bait casting setup, straight fluorocarbon?
I think that's power shotting.
Yeah, it is. It's a drop shot, but I feel like that's what people call power shotting too.
Heavy duty drop shot.
Yeah,
that's really all it is.
I've done that, not with the Magnum flukes or the super. No, I've done it with just regular flukes, and Senkos and something else. I did it with a crawfish one time, not like an actual craw, a craw trailer.
I have.
Oh yeah, that time we fished the river.
Yeah,
I
we went to the bait shop and actually went and bought live crayfish and drop shotted them in this little brook.
Yeah,
and we're catching smallies. It was sick.
Kyle, what I call a spinning reel. I will fish it, but I'm like that meme with the kid with pistol that's crying that meme when I pick up the spinning reel.
Yeah, you don't like them much, do you?
I don't know, man. There's something really fun though about fishing like a wicked nice spinning setup, and you got your drag just right. That when a 4-pounder, 4+ pound smallmouth hits, and you're just playing that fine line between horsing them in and breaking them off at
so
any
much
given
fun.
second.
That's the best part.
Oh yeah, it's a rush every time, and then you get that sprint that just makes the drag scream,
It's like,
and then
no. And then you got to
they-
catch back up to them.
yeah, and then they'll turn, and then they're just like all shoulders, and there's literally nothing you do. The more you bend up on the rod, the more it doubles over. Yeah,
Like, gosh.
and it's like that slower, like tink, 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 as he's just taking inch by inch by inch on the line. You're just like, I cannot do anything about this. I just got to wait for him to tire out. I like that. That's fun. But there's also a lot to be said about just fishing, giant casting rod and just horsing him in on straight 15-pound fluoro. That's also fun too.
It's like riding a 2-stroke dirt bike. It's just fun.
Making sure I didn't miss any texts from anybody else chiming in. Brian, I had my best day drop shot fishing at the lake. Hang on, let me do this for you. If I scooch that over a bit, there you go. Can you see that now?
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Now you can see. Oops, sorry. Now you can see the most recent one there on the other side of the screen. Okay, I'm at best day drop shot fishing at the lake you were just talking about, but I was making long drifts over the sandbar with a long tag to a 4-inch sluggo T-rigged. That is one of the other things that works phenomenal about a drop shot. You can literally just drift it. If you're out there and hellishly taut, you don't have spot lock, the wind is insane, bomb that thing out and drift back over the point that you keep fishing. Or even better, if they're out spread out across a flat, you can just fan cast to your heart's delight. You can cast not back behind the boat and drift with the wind, but you can cast out perpendicular to it. So you can slow down at least the first portion of how fast and how far you're going to drag your drop shot setup, which also going to be really, really helpful. Hey, King Bates. How you doing, friend?
Drifting works really well on rivers, too.
Yep. So, all right, we've talked a lot about very specific scenarios and the whole 9 yards for drop shot. One of the things I do want to touch upon is favorite baits and why. I'll even go as far as to say favorite colors. You want to go first?
My favorite drop shot bait?
Favorite drop shot bait and color. Give them the twofer.
I would have to say the Beast Coast Magic Flick in the Chronic.
The Chronic is
Like the,
green pumpkin with a black and gold
I
flake.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, I had to think because there's another one that's very similar, but it's a different name, and God, it's trying to tip my tongue. I should have brought them all down. Also, Beast Coast.
Or the Truth. And the Truth, sorry.
The Truth is a phenomenal color because that's more
Smelty,
shad, smelty kind of color. It's kind of nice because it works in both places that have alewife and or smelt.
It's got a little bit of blue in it. That's the same one. That's the right one, right?
Yep, I
Truth
think
has a little blue.
yes. The one with a more electric blue is the JL's Candy Crush.
Yeah, that one's good too.
That's a
They're all
phenomenal
freaking
color.
good.
They really are.
Depends on the situation. But the Chronic, I think, is still my favorite.
Yeah. Ooh, Bob, great question. We'll get to that next. We'll wrap up drop shots with differences in weights and stuff. What's your second favorite?
Shut up, Sir Altitude.
Because yes, he is.
Second would probably have to be... Man, I don't know.
Because 90% of the time we just straight crush them on the magic flick.
Right.
So we really don't have to fish that many
If I
different
was
things.
to choose something different, just completely, yeah, I was going to say like a 5-inch
Robo-worm?
Robo-worm, yeah.
That's another that's been around a long while and it just works great. My favorite, hands down, Beast Coast Magic Flick in Bankroll. I don't know what it is about that color that works so damn well for both largemouth, smallmouth, clear water, stained water, freaking shallow, deep places that do or don't have rainbow or do or don't have smelt. There's something about that color combination that is just apparently so universally good. Even more so, I do better than that with That I do the perch,
It
the
just
JG
looks like
sturdy
a bait.
perch.
It looks like a bait fish.
It does. It's a phenomenal bait in color. It's right size. It's got that great action to it, and that color is insane. Second to that, Grat beat me to it. Haze Dong Shad from Megabass. Little tiny 3-inch swim bait. Or 2.5
Yeah, that's what I was
inch.
throwing on the Okashira up on Champlain.
Yep. And that stupid little swim bait, dude, they get torn up so fast. It sucks, but they work phenomenal. One thing I don't talk about a lot because I don't do it often, but I do it a lot when I'm fishing for drop. If I'm in a drop shot bite and I'm going for largemouth, 4-inch Senko wacky rigged on a drop shot. Shh. I didn't tell you that.
That'll do it. That does it.
It works for smallmouth too. Okay, onward. So we were talking about weights. There's a whole host of actually Samata's baits is in here. I have used a ton of his baits. Those are really good too. Crazy Hick Bait Company. He's got another one. I have a bag in the other room. Help me out here. It's that 5 or 6 inch worm, and it's got the big red eyes in it. We've caught quite a few fish on that. Dude, I can't remember anything anymore. I can tell you where I caught a fish 3 years ago.
There's 17 billion names to baits, and I can only tell you the ones that I use right now.
For the life of me, I cannot remember it. Those have been pretty good. I have used a lot of the Max Sense. I'm not that convinced that they're that much better.
There's really not much action to them, and they just stink like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it. They work, but
Works on Ontario.
it's in the chat. Maxi Tails. There it is. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny because the last time I went to Ontario was last summer, and I was fishing the Magic Flick in Goby compared to Tom, who was fishing only the Max Scent, and I caught more fish than him, and I caught a bigger fish.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying it because I think it's better. I mean, I do personally think it's better, but there's not enough evidence from more people using it and myself using both in similar situations to say which one is clearly better than the other. I do think one may be better than the other at different times of the year because that added scent that the Max Scent has. But I think Beast Coast Magic Flick excelled out there in that particular time because so many people throw the damn Max Scent flat one up there. And I threw something very similar but just different enough that was probably the difference more than anything. I mean, it's a killer bait. I'm not downplaying it. Don't get me wrong. Damien, thank you for saying that's another phenomenal drop shot bait. Kitech Easy Shiner or Swing Impact, with or without the tail. Bingo. Another phenomenal bait. There's so many different baits to what you can throw in a drop shot. There is no limit to it other than your imagination. It is already 9 o'clock. Okay. One last thing. Bob, on weights, you said bell type, but what about the thin stick type? Is that one better around rocks? Sorry, is one better around rocks? Yes, neither. If you really want to fish around rocks, I actually have better with just like the straight cannonball, round ball style drop shot weights. That round just profile rolls out of everything. Unless you happen to get it down like in between a wedge point, maybe where there's like a little overhang, so your line can come through that wedge point, but the weight can get underneath it. I don't care what you're throwing. All three of them are going to get stuck.
You're getting stuck, yeah.
But that round ball weight tends to come out of rocks better than anything. So like ball jig too. Second to that, I would say the pencil weight, which is ideally better for using in grass. That's where that weight does really well. It slides down and in, doesn't get hung up as much. And then there's the teardrop weight, but I like the teardrop weight. They're easy to find. I work with them well. I still get hung up in rocks, but I mean, more often than not, it's my hook that gets stuck in the rock than it is my weight. And it is what it is. So there's that. One last thing. I did see multiple text messages. Thank you for the donation, Chad. Much appreciated. Buy a mat for your tank before Andrew breaks the effing glass. Fantastic.
Hey, Chad. Bet.
Bet. Break a $50 tank on a $25 bet.
Yeah, no, next to a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah, then that's that too. Yeah. Grat, Sonata Shot and Juice got it done on Winnie Saturday. Hell yeah, man, I like it. So, like I said, there's a number of different ways you can do it. Try to understand what the fish are doing. Dude, if you have any sort of sonar, you can drop down on them. Pay attention to that first and foremost. That's going to tell you more than anything to how they're reacting to it. They're either not going to react to it whatsoever and bail before it even gets remotely close to them. They're boat shy. You have to go to long casts. From there, pick 3 of your top colors. Like if it's clear water, your natural greens, like a green pumpkin, something kind of smelty, something kind of perchy. And if you want, you can even add a 4th and throw something really wild, like Morning Dawn or pink, honestly, or chartreuse. Smallmouth, like all those things. Same can be said for largemouth, but largemouth for me I found are a little more consistent. I can stick to natural colors that just work depending upon water clarity. And just continue to make adjustments. But we'll say 8 to 10 inch tag length, 3/8 ounce drop shot weight, and get the pinch style. Don't get the tie style. That's just a waste of time. And then
make sure you pinch them make sure you check the pinch on when you take them out of the package, because sometimes they're still open. You go to cast night weight, it's just gone.
Yep.
See ya.
Sometimes you have to pinch that top pinch point tight, and you're good. Don't rip up on the line when you set it either. You just kind of snug it in. And then 1/0 Gamakatsu drop shot / split shot hooks. Like there's so many other hooks out there. That's at least a starting point for what you should be looking at. One last thing we didn't talk about, rigging your bait. God damn, there's so many different things you could do for how you could rig it. Go back to the bait tank. This is by far the most standard way you could rig it. You might have to turn it a little bit. Nose hook. So you're going to take the hook, come up under the chin of the bait.
These are different kind of hooks, so just...
Yep, these are spear point. And then just expose the tip of the hook up above on the top side of the bait. That is one of the most common ways you can do it with a bait. It works phenomenal. Don't overthink it. There are plenty of people that are going to be like, dude, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong. Dude, it works. Don't overthink it. Bring it here, please. There is another way that you can rig a drop shot. Oh, God. I'm waiting. I'm here. Come on.
I'm all tangled.
What we should do is actually bring this back. Hey, I said bring you back first. Okay. Give me some line, please. Thanks. A microphone. All right, so I'm not sure how well you can see this if I come back this way. So we have, like I said, how it's kind of nose hooked. I'm not sure how well you can see the hook.
Here, do this. I got you.
Oh, don't move it. Because look at how you messed that up. Anyway, I'll get closer. Move that a little bit. There we go. Okay, so you do have it nose hooked, which is a little fuzzy, but you can see. Another way you could do this.
The mantis shrimp, that's why. Yeah, but I haven't broken the glass. I can't punch that hard.
You know what? I'm just going to have to do it. I can't hold it and show it. Come on.
Really
Put it back in the tank. Sorry. I tried to show it up close on that camera. It ain't going to work. So you can see how I did it. Oh, God damn it.
It's even better. It's closer.
Yep. So you are hiding the hook point inside the bait, and it's not rigged perfectly, but you kind of get the gist of it. You're going to come up under the chin and then bring the hook point through the center of the body to the nose of the bait. And that works perfect. And you can see it keeps it like dead even. Like that's flat. So that's another way you could do it. There's a couple other ways you can rig it, especially depending upon what kind of bait you're throwing, but that's the gist of it.
You can Texas rig them too.
Yep.
And I have also done like how you rig a bait onto like a jig, and it's almost like a swim bait. I've done it like that too. Yeah, I saw Oliver's post. I know what a mantis shrimp is. Yeah. Smack, 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 smack.
Hey, you know what, Oliver? That means the world to me. Thank you, friend. So anyway, those are just like the two most common ways you can rig up a bait on a drop shot hook. Simple as that. That covers everything you really need to know. It's going to get you by just fine. The more you fish it, as you're trying to learn more and get more comfortable with it, there's a number of different ways you can go about rigging your baits, sizes, tag lengths, weights. Like there's a whole myriad number of combinations that you can do. But we have spent enough time on it, and it's time to get going onto Ned rigs. Ned rigs are fun. Ned rigs, I'm going to insult them a little bit here. Ned rigs are kind of like the wacky rigged Senkos. You did mess up the camera.
Whatever.
Are you happy with what you've done?
Ecstatic.
Anyway, Ned rigs to me are kind of like the wacky rigged Senko world, but for smallmouth. It literally does not get any easier. You bomb it out, you let it sink, lift up. If there's no fish, reel in and just reel in and cast again. We're going to get way more just into details for the different things you can do with this, especially weight choices, where you want to throw it. I guess, well, there's really only one head style. What you can do with it other than just fishing on the bottom, but other different ways to do it. But, like, dude, it's literally as simple as that. It's just like fishing a wacky rig Senko. You bomb that thing out, you hit the water, and you just watch your line. As soon as you see it twitch and run away, oh, look, you have a fish. A Ned rig, to me, is no different. It is both one of the most easy yet could be complex ways that you could fish. Works killer for smallmouth, but also works phenomenal for largemouth, too. What is a Ned rig? It is a mushroom-style head. Is that going to work? You might need to put it against the glass. Inside the tank?
Oh, yeah. I guess inside works, too.
Turn sideways, you.
It's as sideways as I can get.
That works. Anyway, it's supposedly a mushroom-style head that really lightweight, and you would put something, say, like the Z-Man TRD bait on it. Like, that's it. It's just a little, it looks like a little mini Senko. You put it on a mushroom head. And the idea behind that is it is supposed to go ahead and pull it back towards the tank and drop it. Stand. That is where the magic comes from a Ned rig, in my opinion. They are phenomenal. They work really, really well in a whole host of different covers and situations. You can use this exposed hook style hook around vegetation, snap it out. That action of snapping it out, think of it like a moving bait bite, such as a jackhammer, bladed jig, whatever you want to call it. And it gets stuck and you pop it out. You can, and the fish eat it right after you pop it out of the vegetation. Ned rig does the same damn thing in that sense. You can fish it around rocks. There's something about the head style, the weight distribution, and the typical hooks that I use on a Ned rig that makes it incredibly easy to pop out of rocks. You could fish wide open water with it. You could just bomb around and let it hit bottom. You could pop it almost like you're working a jig. You can kind of like, kind of do little skitter pop along the bottom as well. God, you can do so many different things in a Ned rig. And it's like, I'm having a hard time trying to make it sound more complex than it is, but it isn't. That's just it.
Just stick with a hook in it and the fish will freaking love it.
The first thing I can say is that weight matters greatly when fishing a Ned rig, depending upon what kind of success you want to find, which is kind of a stupid way to put it, but bear with me for a second. So with the Ned rig, I honestly feel that the best, most effective method for using it is to go as light as possible. More often than not, lighter, very, very light weights are your friends. 1/10, 1/16, even 1/20th ounce heads with just that simple 3-inch, 3.5-inch, whatever it is, TRD. Here we go. That's it. Now, this is a heavier head. It's not tungsten, so it doesn't look as heavy as it is. But, like, that's it. The beauty behind using such a light head is that not only can you pick them up when they're down on the bottom, it falls so slow that if they're not feeding on the bottom, but you don't know that yet, they're going to eat it on the fall. That's also kind of where the danger is, because especially with smallmouth, you're not always going to feel those bites. Sometimes they'll come up and smoke it and spit it. You won't even know it. And the only reason we know that is because of people that have active target that have noticed that that happens way more often than they realized until they actually saw it happening live. I've heard that from a lot of people. But plenty of times they'll come up, smoke it, eat it, and just run. And they'll hold on to it until you set the hook. So that's the benefit of fishing a really, really, really light head with it. If memory serves correct, depending upon the style head, because you have something, say, like the one we saw in the video, you either need to back it up or we need to fix the camera. I think we need to fix the camera. Back it up.
It's already backed up.
The camera itself? Oh. Back it up a smidge, please. Perfect. Thank you. So that is a Strike King style head. So that's flat bottom or flat top, however you want to consider it. So it's got a lot of displacement. It's going to help slow it down as it goes down. Where is the Beast Coast one? I put one on a Beast Coast head. I brought out a Beast Coast head.
There it is. There's a line on it.
Un momento, por favor. Oh, why did I put him over there? Wait.
Am I gonna put it on the other one?
No, I'll just take this off. Well, what I was gonna try and do was show like an exact like line-to-line comparison from 2 TRDs, but one of the things I will show you is one of our other favorite baits beyond just your standard Z-Man TRD that works phenomenal on a drop shot weight. So then you have someone like Beast Coast that makes theirs, and I think Simatus makes theirs similar too, where it... No, Jesus. Focus. Well, you can kind of see it. It's rounded. Thank you. Yo, here. You can show the two differences right there. Perfect. Thank you. Let me slide that over. Boop. Rounded head. It's flat on the underside where the bait comes up to meet it, but it's rounded on the other side. And then there's the Strike King one, which is kind of your typical Ned head style. And it's very, very flat. Those bitches should stand. Go ahead. Throw them both in. Well, throw that one. Sorry, I meant one with the baits on it. Well, yeah, that one, the Beast Coast one. Boop. So, doesn't quite stand, but when you go to pop that along, it will, like, nose stall before it rolls over, and nose stall before it rolls over. But that style head actually does a really good job of not getting stuck in rocks, too, because of that rolled point. And then, one of our favorite baits, just kind of going a little over here. Drop it. Bam. Swim bait. Kitech Easy Shiner and a swim bait on a Ned rig head. Money. It works so good in so many different ways. And for different sizes, too. I mean, then you got things like the Big Turd. It's a 4.5 inch.
God, I love big turds.
Big Turds are the best turds.
Turd.
That's a 4.5 inch thing. It does the same thing. It's the same profile. It's just a bigger meal. So sometimes that's a lot better for them and what they prefer, kind of like we were talking about drop shot earlier, right? When you're talking about sometimes they want a 3.5 inch bait, sometimes they want a 5 inch bait. Depends on what they're eating around and what their point or what their preference is. At this point, I want questions because I'm having a hard time trying.
Not really much to Ned rigs. I mean,
what's the thing
you
like?
kind of throw it out and you. I mean, I like to fish it like it's a really small jig.
Yeah,
but I add a lot more action to it most of the time. Like I'm still popping it, but when I'm popping it out, it's so small it could be hidden behind smaller rocks or hidden behind in the grass or whatever. You pop it out and fish. If it's within eyesight, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Go eat it.
Ferris, throw it out in the trash.
I agree, but I know I'm just kidding. I just don't really fish Ned rigs that often. You fish them a lot more than I do.
I do, because there's some days, man, where it's just like it works. So there is one specific thing I want to talk about when it comes to different times of the years and weights, more importantly than I guess bait size or style. You can, I mean, literally, it's just like a jig trailer. Like Andrew just said, you can fish it like a jig. If it fits on your hook, it does not matter what you throw in a Ned rig. If it sounds like it's a good idea and it's sensible to where you're fishing that time of the year, what you think the fish are feeding on, you can throw literally anything on there.
These aren't the only baits that, not even close.
No, you can throw craws, and I mean, Z-Man makes their own version too, but like, I mean, Yamamoto Fat Daddy Craw. That would work great on a Ned head. Where are they? Baby Rage Craws, regular craws, Gene LaRue's Finesse Craws. Killer on a Ned rig head. There you go, baby. Yeah, dude, throw that thing on. Here, take this stupid thing off. Boop, boop. There you go. Whole number of things, but let me answer a few questions before I go talk about weight specifically, because for me, with Ned rig, that's the most important thing. You can make a bunch of different baits work with a Ned rig in a whole myriad number of conditions. There's a much wider range of options that just work for a Ned rig. You don't have to get too specific. But weight, I have found, absolutely matters given the time of the year or just the way that they want to eat. Ben Marshall, 1/15 is my preferred. Prevents serious snags, especially in current. Yes. Jason, you can throw a point guard on there to help with the weeds. Yes, you are absolutely right. Crazy Hickbait does make his little, it's hard to explain what it looks like. It's just like a little rubber strip, basically.
It's a little rubber duber that goes from the line tie to the hook point.
Yes. So you can turn basically any open or exposed hook into a weedless setup, but it's like a soft plastic, almost like a soft plastic bait. It works phenomenal. Crazy Bait Company, Point Guard. Love it. And so, Ben, is there any modifications that you could actually utilize on your Neds? Can you elaborate beyond other than changing your baits and or weight?
Oh, that's all.
Ferris, well, that's a lie. I feel like I'm missing out, but I still hate to throw it. Ben, super glue is essential as well. Always get your plastics on the head. Always glue your plastics on the head. For anything other than the Z-Man baits or anything with that Elastec material, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. That Elastec stuff, though, depending upon the bait keeper you have on the hooks, I never need to glue them. They do a phenomenal job of staying on there. I get one bait. Unless I break it off, I need one bait a day. That's what I like about those. Who messaged me? No, that was you, not me.
Me?
But Ben, let me go back here. Any modification that you could actually utilize on your Neds? Elaborate, please. I'm curious. What do you mean about that beyond, like, the glue? You could throw a skirted version.
They do have them.
And they work phenomenal. Just kind of like a different kind of jig.
John kicked our ass that day on that thing.
Yes, he did. Thoroughly.
Thoroughly.
Just like this stupid thing.
You're welcome.
Garbage.
No, we're not.
Any other questions, though, while I'm waiting for Ben to elaborate on this? Because I want to give fair share. Throw a cover on it. I like it. So, actually, let me pin this. Sir Altitude, those Z-Man melt in hot weather. One thing to keep in mind with it, what I think, oops, sorry, wrong one, with any of the Elastec material, or it's just Z-Man's formulation in particular, if you leave a Z-Man against anything that's your standard plastics, they will melt together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where they are. As they're touching, there's a little chemical reaction, and they just turn, like, not soupy, but kind of soupy, and it makes a mess. So please store all your Elastec materials away from your regular soft plastics.
I mean, if your dad or grandfather has an old tackle box in the basement, attic, garage, whatever, go take a look in there. I bet there's a couple Senkos or soft plastics that have been touching each other for a good long while, and they're all melted together.
Oh,
they
yeah.
might even melted through the box.
Yeah, seriously, that stuff's gnarly, man. Or on the vinyl seats in your boat if it has vinyl seats. Yes. Okay, so Ben, any cuts or finesse styling to the bait similar to your Flipping Delight trailers? One modification that I can think of. If I'm fishing a minnow type style profile, say the Beast Coast Magic Flick, I will cut just a smidge, like 1/8 of an inch off the face, so that it sits flat behind the head. That's pretty much it.
I mean, most Ned rig trailers or baits are pretty, I mean, look at them. There's not much to them. It's just a little turd. And I mean, I could see maybe making it shorter, but you don't really have to go that short with them because they're already super short.
They are super short, but then I think back to some of the other baits that we do exceptionally well on it that are 2.5 inches long. And I do wonder if you were to cut one rib off of this, so that's probably about 3/8 of an inch off your regular TRD, and put it on like a 1/15th, or 1/20th ounce weight. So you go super light, and it's going to fall insanely slow with this really small profile. That could be insanely good on really calm, bright, sunny days. But you'd have to have very special gear, the exact, like a phenomenally ideal setup to be able to get any distance out of something that light.
Yeah. Like an Oka shear rod.
Like an Oka shear rod. Longer rod, bigger reel, lighter line. And that'll work. Okay, while I'm waiting for more questions coming about Ned Rig, one of the things I did talk about that I want to elaborate on is changing your weights. More often than not, I go with the really lightweight. 1/10 ounce from Beast Coast is my go-to. I do have 1/20th ounce, and I will use those plenty of times. But more often than not, I'm okay with the 1/10. It's like my go-to. I catch the majority of my fish on it. It works great. If that's not working, and I almost always start with like a TRD style bait, keep it simple, then I'll go to a minnow style, and I'll start with the Magic Flick. From there, I will go to swim bait style, so Kitech Easy Shiner. I like that better than the swing impact or even the swing impact fat, because it's a little bit stiffer, so it doesn't roll over on itself and hits the bottom. If all else fails, this is where weight becomes critical for me. They don't always want something super light that they can see forever. It's kind of like fishing for bass, for largemouth in the middle of summer. They want to eat a jig, but they're like, they see it, they're like, man, I mean, yeah, but man, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. And then you snap that thing 5 feet off the ground. They're like, whoa! Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna eat that. Like, they're like, it's gonna work, and then they run after it. Same thing can be said for smallmouth. You go from a 1/10 ounce head to a 3/8 ounce, and it can completely change their perspective on it. They still want to eat something of that same overall shape, profile, size, whatever you want to call it, all of the above. But if it's falling too slow, they kind of look at it, it's like, not really feeling it. But then you get something that literally rockets by them, and if it's anywhere kind of in the vicinity, they just, at a quick glance from them, all they know is that they saw something that is in the realm of what they're happy to eat for that day, but it moves so damn fast, and they're such opportunistic hunters that they're just going to smoke that thing. And if you find that that's starting to work, that's one of those you bomb, drop, lift real quick to feel for a fish, reel it back, and repeat. That's like wicked fast finesse fishing. And that has been incredibly helpful for us in a number of instances. We also got our teeth kicked in on Lake Ontario by our buddy Tom doing that with a bait that I will not mention. But I'll talk about the head.
It caught me the
first year we went in 2019. You hammered a good bag the day that I lost literally every fish that I hooked into that day, and that sucked. But you had a phenomenal day, and then we went out there.
That picture of me with all those fishes, I don't know, it might still be on my mom's wall.
I hope it is. It's a phenomenal picture. So there's I'm trying to think. The hell was I going to say about that? You made me lose my track of thought.
My man.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
Something about Ned rigs, probably.
And something about them heavy.
About what?
Something about them heavy. I forgot. I'll let it go. Anyway, circling back to the chat. Keep going. Explain the hook set. I like that one too. But Brian first, I was using a craw on a Ned and lost one claw, and that was the trick for the day. I was ripping off one claw the rest of the trip. See? Devil's in the details, and that detail mattered. I guarantee you, Brian, if you had thrown a swim bait like a Kitech Easy Shiner, something to that same effect that was same length or near enough to it, but also a stiffer style swim bait, you probably would have caught a ton of fish doing the same thing too. I'm actually curious, what kind of craw were you using? I want to know what the action on that leg looked like. Jason, explain the hook set. Almost identical to a drop shot hook set. Because I'm throwing it on mega light line, I'm just leaning into them.
Yep, just start reeling, like lift up, and if they're there, start reeling, and just lean back and just keep the tension on there. The rod will do the rest.
Yep. Ben, luckily I use my Fenwick HMG Ultralight because much like the drop shot, I know it's a terrible idea to yeet the hook set. I've used a lot of different Ned rig hooks over the years. I'm trying to think. When was the first time DJ and I fished together? Was that 2017 or 2016? I think it was 2016. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I knew it was before I had the Skeeter.
Was that the day you went and lost all his weights?
No, that was 2020. We fished for several years, long enough for him to trust me to do things that I shouldn't have done. But anyway, I don't know. I've used a ton of different Ned rig hooks, and there's some that they're laser sharp. They'll bend out on you. You have to be careful of that. I'm looking at you, Z, man. Your hooks suck. Stupid St. Lawrence trip. That was our 2019 trip. I must have hooked and lost close to 10 fish. And it was stormy, it was raining off and on, and it was like legitimate 4 to 5 foot waves in Chaumont Bay. That was that day.
Yeah.
That was that day.
Fishing that shoal out in the middle.
Yep. And we're getting our teeth kicked in. That was the one where like we hit one roller and I looked back down at you. I was on the front of the boat and I looked back and down at him, and
I was like, holy shit. It's getting a little rough out here.
So from that point, we moved over to the not as quite as windy side, and he ended up catching a bunch of wicked nice fish off of this one particular point. But dude, I grabbed these. I can't remember what style. They were like the Z-Man Pro heads or something like that. I forget. It's been 3 years now. But they were 3/8 ounce, and I really wanted those. I broke or bent out every single hook. Like the hook point broke or it damn near straightened out on every fish I hooked that day. At one point I got so pissed off, I literally opened, I took, like I had 2 bags that were already partially open because I didn't see the first one already open, and I grabbed the other. I dumped them all in my hand. I hucked them all in the lake. I was so pissed.
Goodbye. Good luck, loons.
Jim B, cast out the Ned rig, let it fall and sit. How long before you retrieve, and do you pause during the retrieve? You first.
4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah. For Ned rig,
Like,
I don't
as
wait
soon
that
as
long.
I know that the line stops and it's on the bottom, I know it's on the bottom. I'll let it sit there for, like anywhere between 3 and 5 seconds, and I'll lift up and feel if there's anything there. If not, couple hops, let it sit again until I feel like I'm out of the strike zone. Then I'll reel in and repeat, and repeat, and repeat
Yep.
until I get bit.
If I'm retrieving per se, there is no pause during the retrieve kind of. I mean, there is and there isn't. That's where I'm like kind of like boop, 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 and I'm trying to keep the weight on the bottom, but I'm trying to make it look like it's kind of like stutter stepping across the bottom without coming up. So I don't know. If I'm doing like that and I know they're active, I'll maybe have a 1 second pause, just enough for like if they're following it but I won't commit, that quick pause. I'm like, oh yep, now's the time, and delete it. Oh damn it! I just remember what I wanted to say about this too that we didn't talk about, and I just lost it again. But I was looking at. Oh, another way you can fish a Ned rig, an entirely different technique that you can use with a Ned rig hook because it works. But we'll get to that in a second. Strike King Rage, yeah, I guarantee that because that leg has a ton of action. If you had thrown a swim bait on there too, you probably would have killed it. It's Mungo. Mungo. A lot of time eating the hook set will make the fish eat too. Truth there. Ben Marshall, Z-Man Pro, they I same with Beast Coast and Jigmaster Neds. Okay, so one of the last things. Right. Let's switch to Le Bait Tank. Add to stream. Swap. Can you please damiki rig my Ned rig? Porfait 4.
I mean, I would if I had.
Bingo. That's a... Where's the other rod? We literally have a swim bait tied onto a Ned head in there.
No, we do. We're just doing the same thing. Fine.
Just death stared at Mike.
Yeah,
Where's the... Well, do we have...
in the tank.
You can do this with just the TRT, by the way. It doesn't have to be a swim bait. I don't know if you just...
Ain't
that's...
gonna work.
Go on, get wet, boy. Oh, you could have done it with that. Don't get your phone wet. Splash. Proceeds to splash all water on it.
Sometimes I just don't care.
Uno momento, por favor. In the outdoors. Heavier Ned heads on bait caster or spin rod. I'll still throw it on a spin rod. Although if I'm going to throw like a 3/8 ounce and I'm going to work it hard, then I will go to 10-pound line. Wow, that was close. I'll go to 10-pound line instead of just 8-pound line on my Ned head. Bam. Damiki rig. This is one of my favorite things I like about a Ned head is that it's dual purpose. You can fish it as a Ned rig is intended to be. But especially if you're going for smallmouth and you can't tell if they're feeding up or down or if they're really feeding in like a, say, true suspension mode, a damiki rig is really just any hook where the eyelet comes out 90 degrees relative to the primary hook shank. And that's it. And this is all you are doing with a damiki rig. You are hanging that dead still with a fish. Sometimes you can treat it like an ice fishing jig and you can kind of like shimmy it as you pull it up and away from a fish. Depending on the time of the year, they don't always like that. So literally just bring it over their head and hold the damn thing. And having it sit perfectly flat, like it looks like a fish swimming along in the water column or it paused and they sit level like that, that's mint. Ned rig is great because you can do both. Excuse me. You can fish it like a damiki, or you let it hit the bottom and fish it like a Ned rig. Throw a swim bait on there, you do both. Best of both worlds. However, again, you can throw it just like you can throw just those Z-Man TRDs or a Senko, whatever it is that you throw in there, 3.5-inch little thing. And how often this works, there's a really wide window. I was out on Winnipesaukee actually 4th of July weekend, July 3rd, for my son's birthday. I went up a few hours earlier so I could fish for you a little bit, make sure I got a parking spot, because I picked them up at a private spot that I could pick them up from but not launch from. And then beat all the boat traffic, and what the hell, I can fish for like 4 hours before the family gets there. And the way the fish were relating, I saw a good mix of kind of suspended fish, some fish that were like coming up, eating and coming down, and then like straight up bottom contact. So Ned rig is perfect. Bomb that thing out, hit the bottom, catch a fish, catch a fish, catch a fish. They're all kind of small. But see, that one's swimming 5 feet off the bottom. Take that Ned rig, same exact thing, drop it down and hold it 5 feet over their head and watch them come right up and smoke it. Slightly better quality. Not huge, but, pretty good. Oh, dang.
Oh, dang.
What this? Jim. JB. JB. Why can't I know your name? Why can't I know your name?
Is it Jimby or is it JB?
Jim Bop? There's a way. Cut. Put. Tit. Anyway, JB. Dude. Thank you very, very much for being the newest member behind the channel. We owe all of our supporters a private stream, which was originally going to be this week. But side note, I was invited up to be a guest speaker at New Hampshire Fishing Game headquarters tomorrow to speak to all the high school anglers just about high school bass fishing in general, some general pointers for fall fishing, general pointers and dips for fishing during fall tournaments, the whole 9 yards. So that kind of really threw a wrench in my whole week because I had to prep for it, and then I obviously have to do it, and then my truck issues on Monday. So anyway, next week.
Good to know that our state kind of likes us.
Honestly, like,
and doesn't think we're just a bunch of asshole bass fishermen.
So I seriously, like, I posted about it yesterday. Like, to me, that is an incredibly high honor that, like, literally New Hampshire's Fish and Game Department, at least one person, watches us, likes us, and thinks highly enough of us to invited me up there to speak on, like, not necessarily, I guess, on their behalf, but I guess kind of. I don't know how to look at it, but
Or guest.
Dude, I'm honored.
Your guest. Hell yeah.
We've come a far way, buddy, and we're just having fun doing what we're doing. And we have this wonderful crew, people that are here to listen to us rant and rave. And by the way, we're half an hour later than we meant to be.
We like to fish, and you like to watch us. We like to help you guys out.
And apparently we're doing a good job. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, JB, thank you very much, buddy. Greatly appreciate it. All right, let's wrap this up. Like, we covered all the important points. Is there anything I missed for Ned Rig that you had hoped we would discuss, or you're curious about something you would like our opinion on? Hit it. It's Mungo. Going up your way to Winnie in October. Any tips?
Don't.
That's a lie.
Just kidding. October should be fine.
October should be fun.
Yeah.
So when I go up there in September, this is the hard part because our deep water bite, like literally everywhere, except for Winnie, has been not there. But when I was there at Winnie July 4th weekend, they were as deep as they should have been. And honestly, some of the deepest fish I've caught all season. It's been weird. So in like the tail end of September, I've done really well for smallmouth out in like 55 to 60 feet of water. Not an exaggeration. The smelt are pushed out way deep. They're hiding in whatever structure they can find down that area. They're hovering around it if they're not down in it. And the smallmouth are roaming over the top of their heads down, say, 25 to 35 feet. So that's one thing. By the middle of October, they will probably have pulled more back towards main lake points if I had to take a guess and come out of like the main lake. Now they're moving more towards mainland. For largemouth, total crapshoot, man. They may have pushed back up in the shallows a little bit, but it depends. Like that time of the year, like depends on what New England throws us. We might still stay a little bit warmer than average, and they'll kind of stay up shallow, or they might pull back out. I've only ever fished for smallmouth up there at this time of the year, and largemouth fishing up there is like totally different than anywhere else I've been. So I can't really speak to that. But you should have fun regardless. Smallmouth should be good. They should be shallower, more towards mainland, but still like deep. You'll crack them. You shall crack them. Okay, Final call. Was there anything else anybody wanted us to elaborate on, ask our opinion on, Ned rig, or even drop shot? We can circle back. I don't care. Otherwise, let me just take a minute to say thank you all very much for watching tonight. Greatly appreciate it. I have no idea what we're doing next week.
We will be here at 8 o'clock
I
on
didn't.
Wednesday
Yeah.
at youtube.com/603bass. I fucking nailed it.
Yes. I still have to talk to Steve at Bass Fishing Electronics. We're supposed to get him on here. One of the things we're going to talk about soon is we're still planning on bringing swim bait scrutiny back in. They've had a lot of things going on. Nothing bad by any means, just busy. One of them moved and getting the house ready, getting the new house ready, yada yada. Like there's a lot going on for them, so they've been very busy. But they're still Tyler.
His house looks sick.
I know.
The old one.
Huh?
His old house looks sick.
Yeah, the log cabin.
Yeah.
Kinda? Yeah. I went there one day.
Did you?
I did. That's where I picked up the citizens for that swim bait tournament last year.
Damn.
Yeah. Anyway,
Where'd you move to?
I don't want to say it out loud.
Same state?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. We're good.
But we're almost halfway between him. From how far west he was, he is almost as equally far east.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
Good for him.
so any other topics you guys want us to hear over the next couple of weeks? So like I said, Steve from Bass Fishing Electronics is going to come back on. We're going to do another deep dive into bass fishing electronics of all shapes and sizes and price points, especially accessories. That's one of the things I really want to cover. Second to that, at some point soon, we're going to have the swim bait scrutiny guys back on. Beyond that, I have a couple of ideas for other people that I would like to have on. But any other specific topics you guys would like to see us cover anytime soon, now is the time to speak up. Nobody else has asked any other questions regarding Ned rigs or drop shots, so I think we're done on that. And even if you don't have something right now, if you think of something, I don't care how you get a hold of me. You can put it in the comments on this video on YouTube. You can write it on one of my social media posts. You can direct message me. I don't care. Anything you guys get, let me know. We're happy to do something. Spy bait show. I'd have to bring in a guest for that.
Yeah.
That would have to be like one of like
We could
at
do
least
like
multiple
spy baits,
techniques.
Damiki, Okashira.
See, I
We
feel
could do like a
there's
suspended smallmouth show with TJ.
that actually would have been a really good episode to talk about 2 weeks ago. Now that I think about it. Because now we're on the tail end of that.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Still works.
Kinda. Yeah, I guess it depends on where you are. You've probably got another month plus of being able to catch them suspended. All right, I'll think about it. Oh, it's Mungo!
Mungo!
Dude! You're a champ.
Dang.
Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you. Being another new member of the channel, we appreciate you. David, thank you very much, buddy. Greatly appreciate it. Have a great night. And thank you, TV18, and thank you, Jim B. I don't know, man.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. It's very well said. Good job.
Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciates you.
We're done. It's an hour and a half. I was 36 minutes later than I meant to be.
It's okay.
I honestly don't know how the hell we talked about a drop shot for an hour. Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
do,
don't
because we
know.
love it.
For the most part.
Just not this year. Something about the drop shot this year has been very fickle for us, but I know plenty of friends have been killing it on it.
Yep.
So I'm not going to disregard its efficiency and effectiveness.
A fish. You didn't see. You said that on purpose.
Maybe. Maybe not. I did.
Hear that guy? Jesus. Well, before he says anything else, dumb.
Dude, I mean, drop shots are great. Come on. You know? Drop shot.
Robo-worm.
Drop shot is the
See you guys
hottest.
next week.
It just works. It's kind of like how they say, you know, that geology rocks,
Stop.
but geography is where it's at. I was trying to figure out how to work that
Before
in
he
more
comes
naturally.
out with another dad joke, makes me put my head through this wall. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 8 o'clock at youtube.com/603bass. We love you. We will see you then. Good night. Why are you playing taps?
I don't know. Have a good night.
See ya.